All right, so the question is, do some muscles need more volume? Now you probably noticed that some muscle groups, they grow pretty easily, others don't. For example, maybe your chest, it just kind of like blows up. It just kind of goes upward. And then maybe the back, your back gains are kind of like this, right? So what do most guys do in this situation? They usually crank up the volume on the back because they think my back just needs more volume. Maybe, maybe not. So do you actually need more sets, or are you missing something else? So in this video, I want to break down when more volume makes sense and when it might not work, because the answer isn't always just to add more sets. You could just be masking a much bigger problem here. Now, real quick, shout out to Travis, one of my subs for this one. He made a comment on one of my videos, and that's why we're here discussing this. So let's go to that. So AJ, good video. He agrees with a lot of the points that I made in this particular video, which is why most naturals hit a wall. And basically, he's saying if we go to the Sergio and Arnold, they get better results. I think it's the only way because of high volume. There's a place for multiple approaches. For example, in my case, I feel that most of my body responds extremely well to moderate volume and intensity, whereas my pecs respond much better to hits. Okay, so he's saying that basically lower volume for his chest. And for triceps, when he increases the intensity, he doesn't get growth. But if he increases the volume, he sees more growth. So he's basically saying some muscle groups respond better to more volume and others might not. Okay, so that's pretty much what Travis is saying here. Now, it was a good comment with good insight, so I thought I'd go ahead and make a video on this. So yeah, I appreciate it, bro. And as always, if anyone's looking for coaching, tap that top link in the description. I've been crushing the natty transformation game for years, guys. I'm not some silly ass fitness influencer. I'm a real coach. So let's train. But yeah, appreciate the comment, Travis, so we can make a nice little video out of this. All right, so let's get into this. Yes, some muscle groups, they may benefit from more volume. The reality is not everything responds the same. Ultimately, muscles differ in their responsiveness. So some muscle groups they grow from minimal stimulus and others need more stimulus. But how do you tell which muscle groups need more sets and which ones don't? Well, I'm so glad you asked, my guy. So let's talk about this shit. Now, before you add more volume, you need to ask this question. Is the muscle actually stubborn, or are you just not training it effectively? Because what you should do will depend on that answer. Okay, so now a stubborn or lagging muscle group could be for a variety of reasons why it's lagging in the first place. So it could be because of poor form, maybe your exercise selection isn't good. Lack of variation, which I have a video on this, but that doesn't mean go in and blast the muscle group with a different exercise every single time. So there's more nuance to the variation. You could also have a weak mind and muscle connection, which could be because of poor technique or even, the exercise selection, whatever you choose. But also maybe your intensity isn't there. Okay, because maybe you hate training that muscle group. It's possible. I know I push harder on some muscles compared to other muscle groups for sure. So instead of fixing a root issue here, you just add more sets. So cool. Now you've got more volume of the same poor stimulus. But it's not a solution, guys. Okay. That's just adding more junk volume. So you're adding junk on top of junk. And a lot of the HIIT guys too, by the way, will go the opposite route. Oh, you just have to train it less frequently and harder. Right? So there's that side of the spectrum as well. Okay. Now, these are just questions that we need to ask about our training, and we have to be very transparent about it. I'm not saying adding more volume can't work. In fact, I'm on board with it. I'm actually so on board with it that I even think that frequency can increase along with volume in some cases. But this is where the nuance matters, you guys. Case in point, I had stubborn calves, minimal growth. My volume and frequency was pretty standard, moderate, but there was no real progression. Okay, so back in 2015, I decided to increase both my volume and my frequency on my calves. So from that point on, I was doing anywhere from 3 to 5 sets every single day. This was daily, okay? So I really increased my my frequency. So 3 to 5 sets, and I was doing 20 to 50 reps per set to failure. This was what I changed, okay? And my calves responded, they grew. So yeah, sometimes more volume is the answer. But here's the key point. It worked after I understood how to train them properly, okay, which I'll get into here in a second. But if I added more volume to the problem before I actually understood how to train the calves, there wouldn't have been any growth. Okay, so it's the same bottleneck that you see with high volume training not producing growth. More sets don't just automatically fix a weak stimulus. They just give you more of the same ineffective work. So it's very important to understand here. Now, here's my HIIT story with Marcus. It's me and Marcus Reinhardt. I know Marcus. This was back in 2015, somewhere in there. Now, back in the day, we both trained at the same club here in Vegas. It was called City Athletic Club, CAC. And we became friends because we were both high intensity training advocates, and that's how we trained our clients. I always liked Marcus. He's a good guy. We would always bounce ideas back and forth on each other. And I remember specifically telling him about my calf training, and he thought it was crazy, of course, right? Because he's a pure HIIT guy. But this was at a time when I was kind of dipping out of HIIT, and I was experimenting with more volume, okay? And I remember because we were talking about calf training, and he told me his calf story. Now, some of you that are involved in HIIT know that Marcus has background with Mike Mentzer, and he was, in fact, Mentzer passed away right after they filmed those videos, those popular HIIT videos. So he was friends with Mentzer, he knew Mentzer, and he was advised, and this is what Marcus told me, okay? Mentzer told him to stop training the calves for 2 weeks and of course train them harder. So ramp up the intensity, but lay off on the frequency, and of course volume was very low. And Marcus told me that his calves blew up. Now my calves would have never responded to that. I'm telling you guys. So for me, my stubborn muscle group needed more volume and more frequency. So according to J Scripture, not Menser's, right? Increasing volume and frequency on a stubborn muscle group, it's a very solid approach, and it can definitely work. In fact, if a muscle group is stubborn, this is the classic solution. And a lot of people talk about this. I even wrote about this in my previous books from 2015, 2018, 2019. But the caveat is this. It can work, yes, but only when you have good execution, high intensity effort, and you're progressively loading. At that point, volume becomes an amplifier. So this just means before increasing volume, you basically have to earn it. And when I say increase in volume, guys, I don't mean anything crazy. So don't hear me incorrectly. I'm not saying go from 4 sets to 25. It's not what I'm saying here, okay? But you have to earn it, essentially. Okay, your execution needs to be in good form and controlled. Your intensity needs to be high, so close to failure or to muscular failure. And you need to focus on getting stronger, okay? Because if you don't do these things and you add more volume to a broken system, it's not going to do anything. So you need to add volume from a very honest position, is what I'm saying. Okay, you can't do it when your reps, your form, your technique is not good. You can't do it if you're not training hard and if you're not getting stronger. You don't want to add volume in that scenario. You have to get these boxes need to be checked. So look, I want to pound this a little bit harder. Okay, so for execution, make sure you're not rushing the reps and you're not using momentum. So fix the repetition execution first. For intensity, are you really training that muscle group hard? So that's the question. You have to be transparent. So easy example is guys say that they have stubborn legs. Okay, their wheels are not growing, and that's why they don't grow, because they're just stubborn. And they say that they train them, and they train them hard, and this and that. But what I actually think is what is happening personally is that the leg training, it hurts. It doesn't. It's brutal, right? If you do it right, and most guys don't prefer leg training. So you combine this because they don't want to. A lot of guys don't care about legs. They want to look good, you know, on upper body. They want the gains. By the way, ooh, check those delt gains out, boy. Yeah. But yeah, they're looking for the gains in the upper body, you know, and say they look in the mirror and guys don't care about the legs, right? And so I get it. And then it sucks, doesn't feel good. So you combine this, those two things, you're not motivated to train him, and the intensity typically just, it's not there. It's not there, okay? So be honest with yourself as far as intensity. Are you training hard? Are you training that muscle group hard? And for strength, okay, look, if your lifts are not improving, why should your muscles? Oh, because homeboy on the YouTubes or the TikToks, they told you that progressive load doesn't matter, right? Yeah, okay. Guys, progressive load is still king. It remains undefeated for naturals. Strength and size are directly linked. Okay, no progression equals no growth signal. And if that's missing, more volume is not going to save you. It is not your savior. So before you even think about adding more sets, we have to run a quick audit here, okay? So, number one. Are you progressing in reps or load? If not, that's your first problem. Number two. Are you actually training close to failure, or are you going to real failure? Or you stop being early because it burns and it hurts. You have to be honest, you guys, you know? You got to be real about this. Number three, is your rep execution clean? Are you using momentum? Are you doing the reps with intention? And then we have number four. Are you recovering between sessions? Because if performance is not going up, so strength, something's off. Now here's the kicker, you guys. Even if one of these are off, you don't need more volume. You need to fix the leak, okay? Fix the leak, because adding more volume to a leaking system ain't gonna work. So, some of you guys are lactating over there. You might wanna fix them titties, dog. Just saying. But if everything is dialed in, then yeah, increase volume and potentially frequency. So here's the truth, my dudes. Okay, volume is not the starting point. It's an adjustment tool. So we have to start look at execution. You need to get intensity high, and you have to progress in load. But make sure those variables are in check. Then sure, add more. But the take-home message is earn your volume. Don't immediately jump to more work because you might not need to do more sets. You might just need better training. And once you fix that, you assess the situation. Okay? You assess the situation. Assess the situation. Remember that? Dane Cook. It's a little bit too old for some of y'all. But yeah, you fix these things right here, and then you reflect. You know? You do one of these. And by the way, guys, when you do something like this, it's more of a specialized muscle group routine. All right, so this means that volume for other muscle groups needs to take a back seat, and they should be lowered. All right, now you can lower volume substantially and hold on to muscle. As long as you maintain your strength and your intensity is high, you can go super low with volume. So you want to lower your volume on other muscle groups. Okay, and this will help reallocate or allocate, shall we say, recovery resources to the muscle group that you're trying to force growth out of. So keep that in mind because you don't want to have the same volume if you're adding more volume to another muscle group. Okay, something's going to break here. So if you get to this point and you do add more volume, you have to reduce volume in other areas. But unless you're like in an intermediate to advanced stages, you're not even here anyway. Like this shouldn't even be, specializing muscle groups shouldn't even be a thing, okay? Because you don't have enough growth, I mean, realistically, to see what's lagging, okay? So this is more intermediate to the advanced stage. All right, so let's make this very simple. So if you are here, right? Let's say you've earned the right to add volume. So here's what to do. You will add 1 to 2 sets to one muscle group. Not the entire program, remember. In fact, everything else kind of drops down, okay? Keep your reps clean. Make it hard, progress in reps, and then you get to a certain point, then you increase load, and you just keep going back and forth with that. But don't CrossFit your reps, okay? No ego lifting. All right, so run this for a few weeks and see what happens. But you gotta pay attention, right? Because if you're getting stronger, okay, and the sets are truly hard, okay, and the execution is still clean, okay, so getting stronger, sets are hard as hell, execution is good, clean, and the muscles are, they're still not growing. There's still no growth. Well, now you can add another 1 to 2 more sets on top of this, okay, and repeat the same process. We're slowly cranking up the volume. All right, so be aware of performance markers. So going back to strength, meaning if you stop making load progressions, then reassess why you're not making load progressions. Now, there could be a host of reasons for a performance drop, but one of those reasons could be that you just added too much volume, right? So we use strength as a simple proxy to determine recovery. Yeah, so I hope that helped you guys. If it did, make a comment, say something, or talk your shit. I know so many of you guys love talking your shit. But if you guys need help with your programming, join my school community. You guys, Natty Aesthetics, okay? I got beginner programs, intermediate programs, advanced programs. We also do weekly coaching calls, or you can stay on your own program and just get the guidance on what to do and how to navigate, okay? So if you're unsure about any of this and you need more hands-on help, get the coaching, you guys. Or just come hang out, shoot the shit. We all need solid friends. We need some friends. So top link in the description. Tap it, click it, watch those videos, get in the community. We stay natty, we get jacked. Hell yeah!